I'm Dave Henschel, lead pastor of Preaching Spiritual Formation and Care at Millington Baptist Church, Basking Ridge, New Jersey, 07920.
The 07920. There you go.
And I'm here
In
with
case you're wondering.
my colleague.
Bob Urbing, lead pastor for Preaching Family Life and Mission.
We're on mission here, and
That's
we are
right.
here with our esteemed colleague.
And there are children who come to this church, so I am Rachel Rickershauser, the Director of Children's Ministry.
Awesome.
I was wondering where you were going with that. And there are children present.
And there are some pastors who act like children sometimes.
Yes,
So,
that's
hey,
true.
good to be
There
with
you
you
go.
guys today. We have a very important weekly video. Rachel's our special guest. She's got a really, really exciting event to highlight. It's only going to happen once a year. It's one of the biggest events of the year. We want to tell you about it because it's coming up this week. And we want to talk about the penultimate message. What does penultimate mean again?
Penultimate means the next to last, which
Okay.
means that Dave is giving the ultimate message this upcoming week.
No pressure.
That's right.
And then there was another term about the third to ultimate.
The anti-penultimate. That's the third to the last.
So now that you have your words of the day, we're going to dig into some topics. So we'll start with you, Rachel. It's that time of year.
All
Tell
right.
us what's coming up in the life of our church.
That's right. We have our hair-raising egg party this weekend.
My hair is raised.
Yes.
There you go.
HARE.
HARE, it's a play on words, if you're familiar with that. And note that it's a party. So we used to do an egg hunt. Fun fact.
Noted.
Fun fact.
I remember the egg hunt.
Do you remember that?
Rachel said no more egg hunt.
It was a lot. It was exciting in that moment, but I think, like after COVID, plus like, the egg hunt, it took about like 7 minutes and then it was over,
true.
So we had to like think of ways
7
to keep
minutes.
them going.
Somebody had
You
her
saying was
stopwatch
COVID
going.
hiding inside of the eggs, so we had to
So,
stop that?
I think COVID, as terrible as it was, it gave us some ways to be more creative. And I think,
Absolutely.
in my humble opinion, this event has become pretty creative. So
We totally
it's
agree
not
with
your
you.
ordinary egg hunt.
There's animals.
There are egg hunts
There's
other
animals.
places.
It's
but
a party.
But come to NBC for the party. Okay?
You got to fight for your right
It
to
is
party.
true that everybody does an egg hunt, so we're going to say we're not doing an egg hunt. We're going to be
Exactly.
different.
We're doing something
Right.
a little different. So, I mean,
How many years have we doing the alternative event called the hair-raising Easter egg party?
this will be our, I believe, third year. So
Third.
21, 22, and
True.
now 23.
True. Idea for a change in name, you could just call it the alternative.
Easter alternative.
The Easter alternative.
Easter alternative. I don't.
All seriousness, Rachel, when is it? What time? Who should come? What can we expect?
Yes, it is this Saturday on April 1st, and it is from 12 to 3. We have our VIP access, which is the first hour. It's really exciting. We get to invite our special needs families to come so that they have a quieter experience. It's still all the same fun activities, the pony rides, petting zoo, and all the crafts and games. By the way, no egg hunt doesn't mean no candy, okay? I want to make that loud and clear. There is still going to be lots of candy at this thing.
Do you still have to look for the candy, or do you just give it out?
No, you get to play games to earn the candy.
Okay, so you still have to work for it.
Yeah,
Okay,
you still have
all
to
right.
work for it.
It's a very works-based.
Let's not make
We don't
this
just get free
theological,
candy around
okay?
here.
So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Isn't
so,
it kind of cool, though, just pause for a second, that we have the 12:15 special hour for
It is.
families
Yes.
who may not exactly know how to fit into other Easter egg hunts locally.
Yeah,
we
exactly.
put in some intentional effort to make sure there's an inclusivity about our event. I think that's really, really important to recognize.
Yeah, I think so too. Thanks, Pastor
It
Dave.
is recognized,
It
Rachel.
is. Thank
it's
you.
recognized.
And I think that, like I said, we want to provide the same event, but our volunteers come a little bit earlier. The farm animals, the farm team, they come a little bit earlier, and we make that effort to, hopefully make them feel
There's
welcome.
a whole farm team that's arriving, not to be confused with AAA baseball. This is a different kind of
All
farm
right, you're
team.
taking this a little too far, okay?
So,
But there'll be farm animals, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Good.
I have to say this, like you said, Pastor, this is one of our biggest events. Like it draws in more people than Trunk or Treat. So I'm very excited. And also we have a great team of people who are volunteering.
Yeah.
So all of you who, you know who you are if you've signed up to serve. And I'll be emailing you this week for more
That's nice.
details.
Guess it would be a problem if they didn't know who they were, though. So
Right,
that'd be-
right. No, like
6 days away.
Millington is awesome. You all just like wanted to serve at this event this year, and I just like hardly had to really reach out and ask any people. So what a blessing.
We've had a lot of events recently where people have been knocking down the doors to serve, which is kind of cool.
Winter Village too was like that. Thank
Winter
you.
Village, Contend Conference.
We have a
and so
great,
it's awesome.
great church. Love
Yeah.
our church.
Well, you do a good job mobilizing and empowering people for ministry, Rachel. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Good. Ready for
Wanna
a
get
great event. This
Rachel-
is going to kick off the official Passion Week season.
Yes.
You talk about your shirt over there, Rachel?
Oh, do you like my shirt?
You do.
What?
I was thinking
Mama Bear.
because
Mama Bear.
Nice.
Some of us wore
I
these.
thought this was the I thought it said the apologetics.
I know.
Okay.
Okay.
We wore them at the conference. Like a bunch of us got them, thanks to my friend Jen Dowden. So we wore them. It doesn't say apologetics, but it's pretty close, right? You thought it was.
I thought it was too. I wasn't really reading
Yeah.
it, but the reason I mentioned it is because I thought maybe with Dave's comment, we should buy you a shirt that says the Mobilizer, and you can just be wearing that around.
Yes. I guess I got a new nickname today.
a little less
on the
intimidating
weekly.
That's what happens when you walk in the studio, right?
I didn't know.
Unhindered
I didn't expect
Studios.
that.
Mama Bear does kind of scare me. So that's not something I really want to be approaching. Anyway, we're looking forward to a great event on Saturday.
Just stay over there. Stay far away.
It's going to be good. So now on to our penultimate thing. So it is almost done with madness. We're finally going to bring some order
We
to
will.
the chaos.
We're going to have some fun with this one, I think.
and,
you know.
the zeitgeist of our age is coming to a close. So Pastor Bob, tell us what's going on in Ecclesiastes 11:7 to 12:8.
Ecclesiastes 11:7 to 12:8. So we've been doing this is the 11th week in the series. Hard to believe
my
we've been
goodness.
going through it for
I
11
didn't
weeks.
realize that.
One more Ultimate Week is coming up. But really, actually, what's kind of funny is a lot of commentators think this section that we discovered is the end, and like the chapter 12, verse 9 to 14 is kind of tacked on. It's
Like
like
an
the
epilogue?
like in the epilogue idea. But this is like really Solomon summing up a lot of themes that he's been saying throughout the book of Ecclesiastes. So we've hit on a lot of themes, but here he's applying it to youth and age, and then ultimately death, but not I think not in a morbid sense. Like I know we've come up with mortality a lot throughout the series, but the reason
just
that
a
it's
little bit.
Couple times.
yes, but the reason it's there is to give us perspective on how we're living in light of the eternity that comes next, which is what we focused in on in the message today, or
Yeah.
yesterday, I should say.
It's painful to think about and hear about, but like a parent who inflicts necessary pain on their children sometimes in a gentle way. I'm not advocating for any kind of certain models of
certain-
parenting. What I'm trying to say is sometimes
Mama bear models of
Here you go,
parenting.
Mama Bear, on your kids.
sometimes it can be good to have a little prodding.
Some animals eat their kids, so it's
No, Mama Bears defend their children. All right. Anyway.
Praying mantis.
not every mama bear.
Yeah. All right. Well, let me switch over here. Did you get a chance to see the message?
She's done. She's done.
Did the Mama Bear attend church yesterday?
You know, Dave, I was this, that, and everywhere, but yes, I did hear the sermon.
You did.
So yes, I heard the
impressions
message.
from you regarding this penultimate passage and message?
I think
We see how many times we can work the word penultimate into the message today.
Yeah. I think you just, you know, it's like you've been talking about death so much that now we're all just like used to it. And we're just like, we were ready for that one yesterday.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
I was like, all right, put the nail in the coffin. Let's just end it. Just end it.
Yeah.
I think Solomon finally died yesterday. That was the end. He came to the spirit went where it was supposed to go.
12, 1 to
and
7. He paints quite a vivid picture
He ate
of
the
the dying
dust.
process.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's true, Rachel. Maybe we've been sort of like desensitized to the stark reality that he's been talking about because
So now we
it's
were,
been a 12-week series.
maybe it's just me, but I felt like I was ready for that sermon to just, you know, hear about the really sad, you know, story about the dad losing his 20-year-old son.
Yeah.
And then
Yep.
just thinking about yourself, like, okay, am I ready? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like we were ready to ask ourselves that question.
Well, you know, that's an interesting observation because, you know, some people come in, you would hear maybe a sermon on death, and if you haven't been, I won't use the word desensitized, if you haven't been
So like
maybe
your first
prepared or
Sunday.
you haven't thought about it, it's like jarring, like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
you know. But since it is a reality of life that we've been bringing up, it's like, yes, okay, tell me, and then what comes after, right? Am I ready for what comes after? Yeah.
So for the people that may be visiting for the first time on Easter, maybe we should think about how to ease them into this.
Well, okay, so let's just mention here. I know you're covering the end of Ecclesiastes this week, but after that, we're going to do Easter, and then we're jumping into Philippians, which is all about joy and hope and citizenship in heaven and shining like stars. So
Yeah.
joy comes up quite a bit in Philippians.
Yes. It is the anti-Ecclesiastes.
It is. We are going with the opposite.
Yeah. Okay, so Bob, tell us a little bit more about the message prep and the main things main takeaways that you feel like we should get after studying and applying this passage.
Yeah. So I told Dave earlier in the week. There's been a couple of the last passages that I've had to preach. I looked at those chapters and I said, what in the world am I going to do with this? Ecclesiastes 8, Ecclesiastes 10 in particular with the flies and the snakes and all that.
Oh, yeah.
But this one really I read it one time and I'm like, there's kind of three major themes right here, which is, I came up with a way to say it, but really he is focusing on I think youth and how you don't waste that and how you use your youth as an opportunity to bring glory to God. But so many people miss their youth because they don't remember their Creator. They don't focus on God, which again is a theme he's been weaving throughout the entire book. That not to pursue God is foolishness, and all these different themes that we've been bringing up. And then
Hold on. Let's just hang out with the youth.
Okay.
All right. So how do I live skillfully and wisely in my youth? Wasn't there 3 R words?
There was 3 R words that were right in the text, and I thought they were
Rejoice.
I was just bringing up what
Rejoice.
Solomon said.
I remembered rejoice.
Rejoice,
Yep.
3.
remove,
Remove.
remember.
Okay.
They're right there.
Yeah.
9, 10, 12, 1.
So why am I rejoicing?
I think the rejoicing piece comes in because too often we tend to focus on the bad things in life, right? So, you listen to a book like Ecclesiastes and you feel kind of down, but at the end he says, no, don't do that. You should actively choose to rejoice because you know your Creator. Mm-hmm. And when you're young, especially, because what you do, and Rachel and I talk about this a lot, children's ministry, I think, is the foundation. Like you're laying a foundation for how people are going to live the rest of their lives when they're young. If you don't learn how to rejoice in the midst of difficulties, you might have a pretty down perspective on life. So I think that's one of the reasons why he brings this up here. Like, the grass is not always greener. Like there's always things you can rejoice for, especially if you know God and you're pursuing Him, and Christ is part of your life.
Yeah, and I would just say that you really spoke to us you preached to us don't complain, right? And even in our youth and old age. So if we don't complain, what's the opposite of that? Sometimes I think rejoicing could be the opposite of complaining, or gratitude. I think of gratitude as also the opposite. So that's what I thought of.
Well, going along with that, I think the deeper question might be, why is it that we complain, right? Why do we feel like we have the right to complain? Why do we so often get on our high horse about certain things? Is it because we think things are owed to us? Is it because we think we're the center of the world? What is the motivation behind the complaining and the grumbling? And there's different reasons for different seasons of life, but maybe ask yourself that question.
Maybe there's some entitlement, but maybe underneath of all that could be me finding life and joy in something other than remembering my Creator, and then that thing being threatened or taken away from me, and then now I put my joy in the wrong place.
Yep, I think so.
That was kind of theological there, but
well, I think it's correct though.
All right.
That's a good observation.
All right, so rejoice, and I like the gratitude thing. That's good.
Yeah,
Contentment.
well, we tend to that's kind of what I was getting at though. We tend to not have gratitude, especially when things get hard. We're like, oh, why is that so hard? But we focus on the things that we want that we don't get, rather than the actual things that we do have. And the blessings we have from God.
Yeah, exactly.
So when you're so ingrateful for things, you're missing out on the things that you should be grateful for.
All right, so what are we supposed to remove?
Vexation.
There was some discussion about this word.
Hashtag vexed.
It is.
That's
Well,
my
okay, I
favorite.
gave you the answer though. You were asking about the different translations. So in the final version, I threw in some word studies there
That
for
was
you.
good.
What are the options again?
So the ESV says vexation. The NIV says anxiety, which is I think what Rachel was asking about. NASB, sorrow, and NLT says worry. So those are some examples. But the Hebrew word is kahas, which is most often translated as provocation or vexation. And a definition for that, which we gave, was essentially things that cause you to worry or have concern, and it produces a bitterness because essentially life is hard. You know, when life gets hard, we get vexed, we get upset, and we get provoked to certain things. So I think that's the idea that Solomon is getting at there, and it's kind of what he's been talking about throughout the book. You know, life is hard. How are you going to respond to it? You could be grateful, or you can be vexed.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a lot of people that are vexed? Is that a common response to
Have you gone to the
problems in life?
store recently? I do. I think that's a common problem within society. People have pent up frustrations and they need to get them out there. Whether it's I got to write something on the internet, or I got to, even when I meet people.
Yeah.
Tempers are shorter nowadays, it seems like.
Yeah. I wonder sometimes if people just want to get their vexed out at the store. They need to like have a release or something. So
Yeah.
that-
And sometimes it seems like they're one-upping. Oh yeah, guess what? You know,
yeah.
my
So
day's been worse
remove-
than yours.
Okay. So we're removing vexation.
Remove it, he says. Removing. Get rid of it.
So let it go.
Just stop it, right?
Bob Newhart. So see, maybe you didn't understand what I'm saying. Some people don't get
Well,
this.
you know,
Stop it.
Okay, but the thing is, though, I think for the application for the youth, like if you develop a habit of complaining and grumbling when you're young, the question is, do you really want to be known for that for the rest of your life? Like what is the stereotype of being the grumpy old man? Do you really want to be the grumpy young person, the grumpy middle-aged person, and the grumpy old person? No, I don't think you want that. You know, people don't want to be around those type of people.
Yeah. That's a good word. I don't want to be that grumpy old guy. But sometimes I am.
You had to think about that long and hard, didn't you?
I'm just feeling the conviction. I need to remove the vexation from my life and my heart. Let's move on. So the third R was what? Remember?
Was remember. So this is the key verse in the passage was remember also your Creator in the days of your youth, and that is the verse that kind of brings together young, and then he goes on to the older folks and says, essentially, you got to remember him. Remember your Creator, where you came from, who's given you everything, and it's when you ignore him that I think the vexation starts to come in, the grumbling starts to come in, the licentiousness of life starts to come in. So it's, once you forget God, everything else falls apart.
Isn't that the whole point of the whole book?
It's the whole point of the whole book
Yes,
right here.
amen.
So
Madness.
we can end this. Well, if you want to end the madness, remember your Creator. That's where you find meaning in the madness, is your ultimately where you came from, right? And who's the purpose giver? Who's the one that brings salvation? It's the Creator through his Son Jesus Christ.
So 12:1 is like almost like a thesis statement or a main summary of the lessons of the whole book.
It is, because I think he's, remember, as we've been going through here, he's been hinting at this, periodically, like God kind of disappears and then he inserts him back in. But here, he's summing it all up and says, basically, everything I've just said, I think to some extent, you just got to remember your Creator. You got to bring it back to God and let him be the center of everything you do, in everything you do. You want to know meaning, purpose, time, money, suffering, risk, all of that, God needs to be infused in every single thing that you do. Remember him when you're young, and then that should carry on throughout your life, even when you're old.
All right, good. So can we talk about the poem?
Okay. I had somebody come up to me and said, "You made me feel really old today."
Oh boy.
I said, "I didn't. Solomon did."
Yeah, there you go.
But it is what he does in verse 1-7.
So I don't know if this is correct, but do people break this book down by the poems? Like there's that poem in chapter 3, and then there's the poem here. Is it like a bracket? Like chapters 1 and 2 is like an introduction of the main themes, and then you get the poem thing, and then you get this other poem. Do people?
I didn't come across that, but that could make sense to me. A bit of a chiasm, if I could say that.
All right, so let's break this poem down. So 12:1 and 2, he's got this sun, light, and then dark imagery. What's that about?
So the sun and the light is bringing back, I think, 11:7 talks about how light is sweet, and that really is a statement about how it's just great to be alive. And I think to some extent he's applying that to youth. And then in 12:8 he's talking about darkness and applying it to old age. So he's doing the same thing here. I think he's recalling what he already did in 11:7 and 8.
Okay.
A bit of a parallelism there.
All right. In the day that the keepers of the house tremble, what's that?
All right, so you want to walk through all the
I
images?
think it's kind of fun.
I did have somebody say, I didn't realize that all those images meant this. And I said, I didn't either. And then I was studying it this week, and yeah, he's very vividly describing.
And then you had a picture for each one, right?
I did
So-
that. Thank you guys. That was a recommendation you had from the run through. So he's giving images of what it's like to age. So keepers of the house are the hands and your arms. You're keeping the house as you're doing that, right? And in your youth, they're strong, but when you
Start
get
to
older.
tremble.
When you get older, as we said, the gun show goes away, right? No more.
I had never had a gun show, so
You
Well,
won't be
okay.
disappointed.
Rachel
Later
will
on.
put you to the test. Do you remember these images?
All right, we'll
The
see.
strong men are bent, or the strong men stoop. What are we talking about?
No, I don't remember.
Bob, help us out
Legs. Legs.
Those are the
Your
legs.
legs get worn out and they can't bear your weight.
here. Yeah.
So those are the legs.
You know, could it be that the imagery, because it's poetry, means multiple things? Like a strong man stooping. You know, you can picture an old guy that used to be strong, that used to be, you know, the heavyweight champion
Right.
of the world. Now here he is, kind of limping
Wasn't I think
along.
of stooping as like trying to crouch down, so you can't stoop on the step. You know,
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah. All right, so their legs are being affected here. The next one, Rachel, you want to try another one?
Sure.
The grinders cease.
That's an easier
because
one.
they're few.
Oh yeah, that was the teeth.
The teeth, right?
Yeah.
Teeth are
losing
you lose your
the
teeth.
ability to chew everything.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, you know, and back then, of course, you didn't have the modern dentistry that we
Yeah.
have today. So really, you know, they lost the ability to eat.
My wife
Hard
keeps
food.
warning me about this could happen. You
She
gotta
said,
floss.
see, Dave,
From
there
the
you go.
expert. Yeah.
You gotta floss. You know, it's a wonder that they kept any of their teeth back then. I guess they didn't have the sugar and the stuff that we.
That is true. You know, so
They
I've been,
didn't
to,
have the
I've been,
Reese's.
I have been to Senegal, and they don't eat a whole lot of sugar over there, and so you know, it's
Wow.
The Ivory
know.
Coast is not known for teeth problems. That's true.
Yep.
All right, so
other problems, but not that.
okay, so the other one here is those who look through the windows are dimmed. Rachel, what are we talking about?
The eyes.
I think you're right. Yeah,
Is that right?
Eyes. That's right.
we're
talked about
we're looking to
cataracts
you
and
for the
LASIK in 2020.
interpretation.
Yes,
LASIK.
eyes. Well, the eyes are dimmed. You can't see anymore.
I
And
guess
and
back then-
and they didn't even have glasses back then. So really, you couldn't you
You're
couldn't
out
see.
of luck.
You you were
I
out
would
of luck.
probably be considered blind if without my glasses. I am
Right.
very
You can't see very much?
impaired. Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
So-
Okay, next one. The doors of the street are shut.
that's the ears.
That's the ears.
Yes, right. You can't hear any. Well, actually, this is interesting. So, yeah, the doors of the street are shut. That's the ears. So you stop losing your hearing. But then it's also tied with, and one rises up at the sound of a bird. So he's talking about how it's like you easily are awakened. Like it's really hard to sleep. And I have heard people tell me that as you age, it's hard to, like you wake up at like 4 a.m. and you can't go back to sleep. So
I gotta tell a funny story. I gotta tell a funny story. And you gotta hear this old guy tell
Yeah.
the story. But he woke up and he thought it was daytime. And he woke his wife up and he's like, honey, we gotta get up. They're, you know, senior citizens, they get up. He's down there making coffee and he's looking outside and it's light out and he's like, something's wrong.
What time is it?
And he goes, it took me a little while. And I realized the shadows are on the wrong side of the house. Like he went to bed at like 7 p.m. and he woke up at like 8:30 p.m. and it was still light out. And he thought it was morning.
Oh no.
oh man.
The shadows were on the wrong
Well, yeah,
side.
yeah. I'm not looking forward to that, but yeah,
man.
nowadays I get less sleep because my kid. I wake up at 3 a.m. and my kid's screaming because of whatever.
Yeah. I have trouble sleeping sometimes. Okay, how about this one?
Well,
Afraid
you are
of,
you are the oldest one around the table, so maybe.
afraid of what is
foreshadowing.
high. Afraid of what is high. What are we talking about?
So that's I think balance. You're a fall risk, right? You can't. It's hard, you get up high and you have to. And that is something that goes as you age. Is it's hard if you don't work on it. It's really you lose your balance. So
Yeah.
that's one of the things he's talking about there.
All right, Rach, ready for another test? Verse 5, the
All right.
almond tree blossoms? What are we talking about?
Ooh. No, I don't remember that
Spring is in the air, the almond tree, what color is that going to turn?
one. Green.
Close.
Not even
Bob.
close.
Blossom, flowers.
White. The Alvin
the white
tree turns
hair.
white. The white hair of old age. That's the image.
Oh man.
Sorry, we're
Yeah.
putting Rachel
The
on
beauty,
the spot.
I know,
the
you
beauty
are.
of old age.
All right, and Bob, the grasshopper
Oh my
drags
goodness!
itself along. What are we talking about there?
Grasshopper. That is well, eventually, you can't walk.
Oh man.
So the hips go, the knees go, and you're kind of dragging your feet along. Unlike the young grasshopper who's boing boing everywhere.
We were at the business meeting a couple weeks ago, and they had some footage of the youth group, and there was one of the kids was slam dunking the basketball, and I was like, man,
Oh, you were a little jealous. there.
grasshoppers were
Yeah,
hopping
you
along
said your
there.
knees are not
Well,
going.
remember, we
No.
got to think of things to be grateful for,
That's-
even in
thank you.
your age.
Thank you.
That's right. That's you're just a cagey
Even
vet
at
now.
your
Cagey vet.
age. I'll try.
You get over there, you strategize, right? I toss
Well,
it
this
to you.
poem, like after you read this poem, you're like, man, there are some things to grumble about.
I guess. Well, see, but that's what he's saying though.
Okay.
Even when, like, in your youth, this is what's coming. So learn gratitude now, so that when
Yes.
those things come,
When they come.
you're still looking to your Creator in the midst of.
Yeah.
Because what hope do you have if you've been grumbling your whole life? You're gonna really be grumbling.
So, very interesting poem describing aging.
That's right.
You forgot the last one.
What was the last one?
That was the desire failing. That was
Oh.
the caper berries.
Paper berries don't work anymore. That was the Hebrew.
I need to go back and do the word study, but yeah, most people said that was referring to
sort of
sexual desire.
aphrodisiac
Right?
or
Yeah. But I think I didn't mention it. It is worthy of mentioning because so many young people focus on that. Right. That's kind of
Right.
like for some people might be like their purpose for getting up in the morning.
Yeah.
And that thing that goes away. It goes away.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so then comes the end, and he's got these multiple images here. The silver cord is snapped, golden bowl broken,
This is where
pitcher
he's just-
shattered, wheel broken at the cistern. Are all those synonyms? Is he
I
saying
think
the
he's
same
kind of
thing?
driving home the same point. But what's interesting is that a lot of the images have to do with like things that contain water, which is a symbol for life, which is those are broken, the water flows out, and that's just kind of watching life flow out of somebody.
Yeah.
And I think, and I mentioned that's the hardest part because you watch I've heard a lot of people say it's really hard to watch my parents or my loved one who was once so strong is now just kind of is weak and frail, and it's hard to watch that.
Yeah. Well, very good. So as we wrap it up here, top takeaways from this passage and this poem, big lessons, big ideas. What are we supposed to take home here from this?
Well, the biggest idea is, and what we kind of covered in the third point is today is the day to remember your Creator, no matter where you are. Don't settle for the dust, because too often we're focused. And Solomon again has been making that point over and over again throughout the book. The life under the sun, the dust life. People focus too much on that, and they don't think about eternity. So that was, to me, that at the end kind of drove that home, that we should be both creator-centric and eternity-focused in how we live our lives.
Creator-centric, eternity-focused.
Creator-centric, eternity-focused. That's
I
right.
like that. Good. Any last thoughts from you, Rachel, about this passage or top takeaways from our study here in Ecclesiastes?
Well, I also liked the plug about catechism.
Yes. Yeah.
And just how that can be a helpful tool in reminding us of our Creator. So.
Yeah, again, when you're young, you're building in the truths into your heart, and you think that's kind of pointless or rote, but if it's down there and people know that, those are things they can recall as they get older. What is our only hope in life and death, right?
I don't have it memorized, but I think the Heidelberg says something like that. I am not my own, but
That
I
we are not our
belong-
own, but belong body and soul, both in life and death, to God and to our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ.
Very nice there, Bob. Well, that's a good part to end on. Anything else before
There you
we
go.
wrap it up today?
That's all I got. What can you give us a preview of the ultimate message coming up?
Stay tuned for the final 5 verses chapter 12, verses 9 through 14.
Look at you, 5 verses.
That's it.
Look, last week 6
Wow.
verses, next week 5 verses.
I'm in heaven.
Who did that?
Yes. There is some interesting imagery here as he wraps it up. He talks about the goad, he talks about the peg, and he talks about the one shepherd. So that's what we're going to talk about
Wow.
next week as we
Wow.
wrap it
Will
up.
there be a final Reese's reference in this one?
I'll find a way. Stay tuned. Thanks for joining us today on the Weekly. Thanks for being
All right.
here.
God bless.
Yep.